We may have a surprise for you.
And what a surprise it was.
He was kind of a secret.
It was a secret the Utah Jazz held on to until the last minute on draft day in 1984.
When the press came in to analyze who we were going to draft, we didn't even put his name up there. That's how much we thought of him.
That player was John Stockton, who was no surprise to Karl Malone. The two first met at the 1984 Olympic trials.
So I walked over to him and I said, "My name's Karl Malone, I'm from Louisiana Tech." He said, "My name's John Stockton." He stood up, and it's like old friends.
2 months later,
the Utah Jazz select.
I'm watching TV during the draft.
My dad called it, he said Utah's going to pick you.
And they said,
John Stockton of Gonzaga University.
I remember when the Salt Palace booed him.
Stock's got it.
boos that eventually turned into cheers.
Hang it up. It's good. It's good. The Jazz win it. The Jazz win it.
The 22-year-old would become one of the best draft picks in franchise history. He began backing up starting point guard Ricky Green, who was an all-star the year before.
I remember the first time we was practicing at the sports mall. And I remember Ricky was sick or hurt that day, so he was out of practice. And I remember when they put John Stockton in with the starters. And I'm saying, wow.
And the rest
Stock rolls it in there to the bellman.
is Utah Jazz history. Now 20 years since his retirement, John sat down with us to reflect on his career, one that began 39 years ago. When you think of your time here, John, that was a long time, a long career. What first comes to your mind? What stands out the most?
What stood out to me most was the first days walking in here, not knowing what to expect and immediately running into Mark Eaton. Then progressed down memory lane and there's no way to separate myself from Karl, from Jeff, from Thurl, from Mark, from Larry, from Jerry, Frank, Phil Johnson, Kenny Nat, Gordon Chiesa. It's some of the best times of my life. Certainly the most challenging and rewarding because nothing's given. It's a pretty fun experience to think about him again.
Stockton on the move in the lane, tie game.
There are so many memories Stockton was part of during his 19-year career. He was a 10-time All-Star, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, including the 1992 Dream Team. John was selected as one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history and was named to the NBA's 75th anniversary team.
You cannot have a Karl Malone without a John Stockton.
Trailer to the mailman. In your face, Brad Lojas.
Together, they were one of the NBA's greatest duos. Karl is currently the NBA's third all-time leading scorer, and John holds 2 titles of his own, the all-time steals record and one that may be out of reach.
He's got him low. The mailman jumps it. Shot up. It's it.
The most assists in NBA history.
A lot of records, obviously you see with LeBron, is made to be broken. But I'm just going to throw it out there because I know what the point guards are about now. That record will not be broken because that is the true point guard that think about anybody else except himself.
I think point guards, as I see them, are not there anymore. Similarly, there aren't many post players in the game anymore. It's not currently valued, and I think that's a mistake by the game. There's foul pressure. There's so many things that go into playing for inside shots that people ignore now. But there's still some guys that do it. It's just there's such a focus on three-point shooting that it gets overlooked sometimes.
22 for John Stockton.
One three-point shot Jazz fans will never forget was Stockton's game winner against Houston in 1997.
Stockton, open three, hit it! John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
How often do you relive the shot against Houston?
I don't relive that shot very often.
Stock for three. Stock. Got it. Unbelievable.
It still reaches me to the core.
It's over. The Jazz win it.
It's such a great moment. It was the exercising of a lot of demons. We lost a lot of games in those conference finals, just short of making it to the championship, and to have that one go in, it's still a pretty emotional experience for me. I know we didn't cap it off with the championship, which would have been a nice little feather in our cap, but the experience was off the charts. I would rather tell my kids this. I'd rather go to the championship 100 times and lose, which some people don't, than not go at all. And it was that kind of experience.
With all of John's accomplishments, maybe most impressive was the fact he played hard every single game.
People think I'm making this up, but I always felt like I was a little bit of an underdog even later in my career. These guys are great players, and they're smart, and they've studied me as much as I've studied them, and I felt like I had no nights off, ever.
Throughout his career, John missed just 22 games due to injury. 18 of those came after knee surgery in 1997. More than 60 players have missed that many games or more due to injury just this season. When John played, there was no talk of load management.
I'm really not just a little bit down on load management, I'm a lot down on it, and here's why. I remember going to a game as a youngster, a baseball game, professional baseball game, and I had a favorite player that I couldn't wait to see. I didn't live in that city, and I went to a game, and he took a day off. Wow, so, I no longer liked him, I no longer liked this team. I went all that way for nothing, and I think I've actually had the experience. I know a young man who died in a car accident coming down to see a Jazz game.
I felt welcome every day I played out here. This is home. And so did my family. Thank you.
And you start thinking about these people that spend their money, their hard-earned money to drive here, to come here, to see perhaps you, perhaps him, to see you play on a given night, and you just take a night off. I don't see how that's a good business formula, and I don't see it's right. I mean, I get it. You want people fresh and playing well at the end, but you also have a commitment to these people who are paying the bills.
One man who may have agreed was Mark Eaton, John's teammate who died suddenly nearly 2 years ago.
Losing Mark was heartbreaking. He, as I mentioned, he was one of the first guys to grab me my first day here. Such an intelligent man, such a calm man, contributed throughout his life to other people. Just a great man.
John also mourns the loss of his former coach, Jerry Sloan. John and Karl went to visit Jerry not long before he passed away 3 years ago.
We'd have glimpses, and he'd recognize us, and he'd have comments that we knew who we were talking to, and we knew that he knew who he was talking to, which I'll remember the rest of my life.
During that time was the Covid-19 pandemic, a time when John spoke out on his opposition to the vaccine.
It's experimental, folks. They've never tested it on people. You are the test.
Was there any hesitation of coming out with any of that, knowing there would be pushback or negative responses?
I played my whole career, was able or got famous. People cared about my opinion. I could never figure out why. I never sought that out. That wasn't part of the joy of playing for me in any way. And I always wondered if there was another duty I had coming to me. And this shows up, and even then I was reluctant. I'm saying, do I want to go down this road? I'll just stay in my lane, and I'll tell my family and I'll tell my friends and just leave it at that. And then you just watch the level of people being hurt. And almost everybody I know that got vaccinated got sick again and again and again. When you watch that, you just can't sit in your seat knowing what you know and stay silent. It's impossible.
Because John refused to wear a mask, his season tickets were revoked by his alma mater, Gonzaga University. Though his tickets have been returned, he still won't attend due to a vaccine mandate still in place for the school students.
I'm still a big fan, but you have to stand for something.
Ovation for Stockton here in Sacramento.
No matter what side of the debate you're on, there's no disputing John's impact on the NBA and Utah Jazz basketball. He was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, his number 12 hangs in the arena rafters, and his statue stands next to Karl out front. He and his wife Nada have 6 children, 4 who still play basketball, and several grandchildren.
They are the biggest Jazz fans ever. There's just no change. It's part of their being.
A lot has changed since John was drafted 39 years ago. Utah's secret back in 1984 is approaching his 61st birthday. But no matter how much time has passed, he'll always be remembered as one of the best to ever play the game.
Hanging, shooting, and scoring at the buzzer.
We're part of a unique fraternity. This was pretty good times we all shared together.
For Beyond the Game, I'm Kathy Aiken, KSL.com.